And speaking of weapons, two Western nations are vying for India's attention, Germany and Spain. They're eager to sell submarines to India. New Delhi plans to buy 6 submarines. It'll be a contract worth $4.8 billion. And who are these contenders? The first bid came from Germany, from a company called ThyssenKrupp AG, and their Indian partner is Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders. They're based in Mumbai. The second bid is from Spain. Their company is called Navantia. They have a partnership with Larsen & Toubro. So which way is New Delhi leaning? Well, it's too early to say. India is weighing its options. It has spelled out its requirements. On top of India's wish list is technology transfer. India wants the maximum possible transfer. So it comes down to the bidders really. Whoever puts the best deal on the table and offers the biggest tech transfer will walk away with the deal. What kind of submarines are these? These are conventional subs. Usually, these are run on diesel. They have electric motors. They're different from nuclear submarines, nuclear-powered submarines. They cannot stay submerged for long. They need to resurface quickly to refuel. Nuclear-powered submarines can stay underwater for longer periods because they can refuel with nuclear power. It's not an option with conventional subs. But they do have other benefits, their own benefits. Conventional submarines are small. They can carry ballistic missiles, even nuclear warheads. And they're cheaper to maintain. All major navies in the world have conventional submarines. In fact, most of their fleet is made up of such subs, so it makes sense for India to invest in them too. The Indian Navy has a roadmap for this. India needs a fleet of 24 submarines. 18 will be conventional, 6 will be nuclear ones. And what do we have right now? As of December last year, India had a total of 16 submarines, all but 1 conventional. So 15 conventional and 1 nuclear submarine. It's called Arihant. Now, most of this fleet is aging. They will go out of service in a few years. Many of them are more than 30 years old. So they're likely to be decommissioned soon. The Navy is planning to upgrade and push for upgrades across the board. In fact, for the conventional subs, India wants them equipped with a different technology. It's called air-independent propulsion. What does it do? It improves endurance of the submarine. It also helps them stay underwater for longer. The machines that don't have the system must surface daily. This technology enables them to spend up to 1 week underwater at a stretch. Earlier this year, India signed a deal. It was with France. This was to upgrade existing submarines. They're all getting the air-independent propulsion system. The system will be built in India and France will help in its integration. As for the nuclear submarine Arihant, it is based on a Soviet design and it has some issues too. A report came out in 2019. It said the maiden deterrent patrol of this submarine lasted just 20 days. Experts say there are endurance issues too. Nuclear submarines are designed to stay underwater for much longer than this, sometimes months, even years if needed. They run on a nuclear reactor, so they get uninterrupted power supply. The only limitation, perhaps, is the supplies, the food and water for the crew. That needs to be replenished. The Indian sub seems to have been found wanting on these counts, so India is talking to France for an upgrade. We told you about this last month when Prime Minister Modi visited Paris. There was talk of a possible deal, but no announcement has been made yet. Reports say the agreement is yet to be sealed. The negotiations are still on. The European powers need the Indian defense market. But India too needs these deals to be able to maintain an optimal level of deterrence. The present fleet is not good enough. Like I said, India has 16 subs. Do you know how many China has? 66. And they're building more. What about Pakistan? Their navy has 8 submarines. All of them are conventional ones. Rawalpindi too is pushing for modernization. It is said to be getting 8 new subs from China. We don't know who is going to pay for them. But we can see that the high seas could be the next battleground. The Indian Navy will need more firepower, and submarines are a good place to start. For our next story, we take you to the Pacific Ocean, to the island nations of Vanuatu and Fiji. They're caught in a turf war between China and the West. We'll start with Vanuatu. It's a nation made up of about 80 islands. It's home to about 300,000 people. The Prime Minister is under fire. His name is Ismail Kalsakau. Yesterday, he barely survived a no-confidence motion. What for? For compromising Vanuatu's neutral status. And how did he do that? By signing a security pact with Australia. This moved Vanuatu closer to the West. It also upset China and compromised Chinese funding for the country. Now, this Chinese funding is very important. The Prime Minister knows this. So he has tried some damage control. There was a cabinet reshuffle. There were some interesting statements. Vanuatu has a new deputy prime minister, and he's been singing China's praises. The Prime Minister, too, posted something on Facebook recently, a thank you note to China for sending a hospital ship. It was greeted with much fanfare. So you see what's happening here. The Prime Minister is trying to strike a balance, but pro-China leaders in the opposition went after him and almost succeeded. The PM lost the no-confidence vote 23 to 26, but luckily for him, the opposition did not get the minimum 27 votes needed to force him out, so he survived by a whisker. And yet this episode shows China's influence in Vanuatu. The Prime Minister is not out of the woods yet. More challenges will follow. He'll have to watch his back. Meanwhile, in neighboring Fiji, an unusual defense summit is taking place. It's their 25th annual defense meet. 25th. So why unusual? Because of the attendees. The summit is being co-hosted by Fiji's military forces and the US Pacific Command. They've invited a total of 33 countries. Among them is China. It's a strange situation if you picture it. American generals in beach shirts talking about the Chinese threat in the Pacific, and a deputy chief of staff of China's Central Military Commission taking notes. What happened, jokes aside, neither China nor the United States commented on whether they'll hold bilateral talks. So then what are Chinese forces doing in Fiji? Fiji's Prime Minister, Sitiveni Rabuka, gave the opening speech at the summit. He said, the Pacific should be a zone of peace. In fact, let me quote from that speech. Only by fostering trust and dialogue can we overcome the complexities of an interconnected world. A noble sentiment. It sounds like a bid to stay neutral. Prime Minister Rabuka also said something else on his Facebook post. We must seize this opportunity to adapt, to modernize, and to forge new partnerships. Is he talking about all nations becoming friends and getting along? Or is he talking about Fiji forming new partnerships with China? You see, in the beginning of this month, Fiji and China conducted what they called a comprehensive security review. Fiji's Home Minister spoke about fostering trust and collaboration between the two countries. Their police forces already collaborate. They conduct joint training sessions, also joint patrols. It's one of the many signs of Fiji's pivot towards China, and now they've invited China to a defense summit with America. What does it tell you? That there is a turf war in the Pacific. The US and China are fighting for influence, and island nations are being forced to pick sides. Their politics is being shaped by their allegiance to either power. China has been using its checkbook diplomacy to win friends. It has been worming its way into Pacific politics, trying to sign security pacts with the island nations and trying to wean them away from Western partnerships. Pacific nations have traditionally been in the Western sphere of influence, under the military umbrella of the US, which, by the way, has multiple bases in the region. It's been that way for decades. But China's latest moves are upsetting the balance. They're forcing the West to match the outreach. So the Americans are sending delegations. Australia, too, has stepped up. It's acting like a regional hegemon. The recent security pact with Vanuatu is proof. But is this a case of too little, too late? Can the West still keep a hold of its Pacific allies? Or has China successfully embedded itself too deep into the region? Or better still, can the Pacific Islands benefit from this attention rather than being caught in a proxy war? The weeks and months ahead should reveal the answers. On to Pakistan now. Their general elections may not be happening this year. That's right. After all the hue and cry, after all the arrests and crackdowns, the polls may not even happen. We are not the ones saying this. Their former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is. He's sitting in exile in London, but all his attention is back home. Nawaz Sharif, as many of you would know, is the chief of the ruling party in Pakistan, the PMLN, Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. A leader from his party was asked about the possibility of his return, and this is what he said. I'm quoting, Nawaz Sharif is sure that elections will take place in February. Delimitation of constituencies has to be completed before then. Two questions here. Why would the elections be delayed? And when will Nawaz Sharif return? Let me answer the first question first. Elections will be delayed because of the census. Pakistan carried out a digital census in the month of May this year. The population count, the age count, all of it. Now, after each census, the government has to notify it. When did the Shehbaz Sharif government do that? When did they notify the census? In the first week of August. So now there is work to be done. If the population has changed, constituencies must be redrawn or in some cases expanded. All of this could take around 4 months. And in case you're wondering, no, this is not optional. The Election Commission cannot hold elections with outdated numbers. So what's the way out? The Sharifs seem pretty clear about it. Finish the update, then conduct the election. Of course, they would say that. They need more time to set the stage for Nawaz Sharif's return. Pakistan may call this a technicality, but let's be clear, this is a subversion of democracy, or at least whatever was left of it, of their democracy. Pakistan's parliament dissolved last Wednesday, so elections should have been held within the next 90 days, meaning sometime in November. That's when they should be held. This is what the law says. But if you're redrawing constituencies, forget about that timeline. Elections will now be pushed to 2024. And what is the point of this delay? Helping Nawaz Sharif return is one part of it. The second part is sealing Imran Khan's fate. He has been jailed in a corruption case, but his appeal at the Islamabad High Court is still pending. Ideally, the army would like to remove him from the picture, make sure he's run out of options. Maybe that's why they're delaying the election. As for Nawaz Sharif, his return was always on the cards. The only question was when. His brother and former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said September. He also said that Nawaz Sharif would be Prime Minister if they returned to power, if their party came back to power. Nawaz Sharif would be at the helm. So why hasn't he taken the flight yet? Why is he still in London? Because of legal problems. Nawaz Sharif was banned from holding public office in the year 2018. It was a lifetime ban. A ban he could not even challenge. There was no law to question the verdict of the Supreme Court in suo motu cases. What are suo motu cases? These are cases which the court takes up on its own. In such cases, the top court's decision was final, no appeals. But now that may not be the case, and I want to underline the words may not be the case. Because in the month of May, Pakistan's parliament passed a new law. It gave people the right to review verdicts in suo motu cases, meaning you can appeal. Now, technically, this would have helped Nawaz Sharif, but last week, the top court in Pakistan struck down this law. They said it's unconstitutional. So, if Nawaz Sharif returns, he faces a legal confusion. Is he still disqualified, or can he contest? Can he challenge the verdict? Or will he go to jail? There is no clarity. His brother Shehbaz Sharif has an answer. He says Nawaz Sharif will face the law and lead the party. How about that? It will be interesting to see how this unfolds in Pakistan. Shehbaz Sharif has done his bit to make his brother's return possible. He passed a law to permit judicial reviews. He also outlawed the idea of lifetime disqualifications. The new limit is now 5 years. A politician can be barred for 5 years, not more than that. Sharif has already completed 5 years. But then again, who knows? Maybe the court will strike that down too. In Pakistan, politics is like algebra, a lot of variables. But we can only be sure of two things. One, the army is buying time, whether to rig the election or to shut away Imran Khan or to bring back Shehbaz Sharif and Nawaz Sharif. They want a delay. And two, it's making a joke out of Pakistan and its people. We are talking about elections here, the most important thing in a democracy. Pakistan cannot decide when or if to hold them. For our last story tonight, let's talk about technology. No doubt it makes our lives easier. It started with a simple wheel. It helped us go from one point to another. Wheels made travel much more efficient. Using them is way better than walking with legs. No argument there. And this was centuries ago, many, many centuries ago. Since then, we have understood technology better. We've harnessed its potential and made it move forward in leaps and bounds, so much so that we have become one with technology. Now we wear tech on our body. I'm talking about wearables. Today, they are part of our lives in all shapes and sizes. Smart watches allow people to make calls from their wrists. Body cameras and sensors help law enforcement. Augmented reality goggles provide visual information. Health trackers share real-time intelligence by monitoring high heart rates and counting the steps taken. It's clear that wearable technology is everywhere. It's the next big thing in consumer tech. Its global market is expected to reach $186 billion by 2030. Do you know what is the next big thing for the wearables market? India. It is already one of the largest markets in the world. Last year, 492 million units were shipped globally. 492 million units were sold. Out of this, India contributed about 20% of the sales. It came third after China and North America. Experts say this year, about 504 million units will be sold the world over. And India's share will account for 26%. This is tremendous growth. And this is not all talk. We are only halfway through the year and the numbers already support the trend. India's wearable market saw a growth of 53% within a year. This year, more than 57 million units have already been sold. Last year, India became the world's largest smartwatch market. But there's no stopping here. In 2022, India made up 26% of the world's smartwatch market. This year, the share is going up to 40%. And earwear has grown by about 27%, which begs the obvious question, what is behind this boom? The answer is affordability. Consumers these days care a lot about their health and sleep. They want to track how good their deep sleep was. They want to know if their heartbeat was healthy while they went for a walk. They want all this data and more for a lower price. And this helps local manufacturers in India, the likes of Boat and Noise. They're putting up a fight against international brands. They offer the same look and feel, but at a much lower cost. The result is this: Indian brands are now among the top 5 manufacturers on global wearable charts. So what are the global players doing? They're fighting back. I'm talking about Apple, Samsung, and Huawei. They have increased their shipments in India. They must compete here. It is, after all, one of the largest markets in the world and only growing year after year. But so far, the international brands have failed to beat the local players. Look at the numbers. In one quarter, the average price of smartwatches has dropped by 45% in India. In 1 year, the average price of wearables has dropped by 23%. So Indian companies are in a good place. But if they want to dominate the global market, they must plan ahead. By 2030, eyewear and headwear are expected to register the second fastest growth. Remember, India already dominates the smartwatch market. But brands like Alphabet and Apple are ahead in other areas. India needs to increase adoption of virtual reality headsets, also smart hats. Another challenge is cost. So far, low prices have helped growth in India, but it also poses a problem. Prices are already at their lowest, so brands will have to differentiate themselves. They'll have to focus on research, improve accuracy, provide something new and unique to the customer. You see, when it comes to wearables, India is already close to the finish line, but the market is changing constantly. Products like smart rings will be launched soon. The consumer is ready to experiment and evolve. Indian companies will have to keep pace with them. The focus so far has been on the wrists, but to become the world's best, Indian players must take new risks. It's an exciting space to be in. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. We are starting with India. Nature's fury is wreaking havoc in the state of Himachal Pradesh. Heavy rains and landslides led houses to collapse. In Spain, a massive wildfire is burning across the Canary Island. The situation on the ground has gone from bad to worse. In Italy, sudden flooding caused an alpine stream to burst its banks. 6 people have been rescued. And finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1977, the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, died. He was just 42 years old when he died because of a heart attack, but his melodies and his flamboyant personality lived on. We are leaving you with that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.